Hi and welcome. In this video we're going to be looking at adjustments. Well, what are they? And what are we adjusting? Well, we're going to be adjusting colour and we're going to be adjusting tone. The first one we're going to look at is going to be levels. So let's dig in. My name's Ken Fisher and this is LiveLink Training. Okay, adjustments are changes that we can make to an image either in brightness value or colour. Now you can find them up here in the image and adjustments menu. You can see these are there here. There's loads of them. And they're all ways that we can adjust some portion or all of an image. Now these adjustments, it has to be said, are destructive in nature. In other words, they change the brightness values of the pixels. Now to work non-destructively, it's common to duplicate the base layer and then work on that layer so we can preserve the original layer intact. However, adjustments can be applied as adjustment layers. Now these are non-destructive and take up bytes rather than megabytes of additional file space. Now they sit above the original layer on a separate layer and come with their own layer mask for free. Now adjustment layers can be accessed from the layer menu. We can go to layer and new adjustment layer, and here are the adjustment layers again. Option 2 is to go to the layers panel, and we've got this little black and white icon here. If we click on that, we've got them again, all the adjustment layers here, so you can access them quite easily from the new fill or adjustment layer icon. Now the most common adjustment in Photoshop is levels. And levels allows us to move and stretch the brightness levels of an image. We use it to adjust brightness, contrast and the tonal range of an image by specifying the location of complete black, complete white and midtones in a histogram. Now there's no secret source for your adjustment. Every image will have a different distribution of tones, you can see in the histogram, and thus a different adjustment to correct it. Now let's just have a little look at, in a little more detail at the levels adjustment and how it works. Okay, let's scoot over to another image. And here I've got a gradient. And it's a simple black and white gradient, but normally we would expect the gradient to start off at pure black on the left hand side and gradually transitioning to pure white on the right hand side. In this case I've created a gradient that I've excluded the blacks and the whites, so the gradient starts at a lighter than black or a dark grey on the left hand side and a light grey on the right hand side. Now without any true blacks or whites, the gradient looks a bit faded and a bit dull. Now this is a common problem that many photographs suffer from, whether it's because the image is under or overexposed or because it's an older photograph that's faded over time. Now these low contrast problems can be corrected using the levels adjustment. Now in this example I'll use levels as a static adjustment, but as I mentioned earlier it can also be applied as an adjustment layer. Okay, let's go and get the levels adjustment. So we're going to go to image and adjustment and to levels. Now you can see the histogram here, just move it into the middle. And we've got a couple of different areas. So here we've got what's called the input levels, which is at the top. And then at the bottom we've got the output levels. Now the histogram is this piece in the middle here. And you can see it's showing us all the brightness values that exist in this histogram and how they're distributed between black, which is on this side, and through to white, which is on this side. And below the histogram you'll see the output levels. Now this shows us the complete range of possible brightness values that could be in the image. Now there's 256 possible brightness values in total in an 8-bit image, including black, so basically including black and white there's 254, so 254 plus 2 is 256. Okay, so what's this histogram telling us about this image? Well, it's telling us this is the possible total tonal range of the image. And we can see that our pixels start here on the dark side. And if we go down, we'll see that ends up being like grey colour, a dark grey. And on the light side, if we go vertically down, we'll see that we've got a light grey. So basically there are no pixels between this point and this point, and between this point and this point that have any brightness values. Now what we can do, we can change this with levels, and what we can do, we can drag this point until it meets up here. And what we'll be actually doing is like stretching out the tonal range. Or we can type into these boxes, and this is called the black point box, this is the gamma point or the midtones, and this one is the white point. And at the moment they're set at 0, which is pure black, and 256, which is pure white. Now let's make an adjustment. Now I can drag the slider, but for accuracy I'll just type in. So I'm going to type in 48 in there. And in this side, I'm going to type in 198. And we can see now that the sliders have moved right to the edge. And what this is doing now, this is stretching out the tonal range. Now by dragging this black point slider to level 48, what we're telling Photoshop to do is to take all the pixels in the image that were originally of a brightness level of 48 and darken them to pure black or naught. Now we've remapped, or we've set a new black point, and you can see on the histogram that it's got blacker, it's got darker. Well, it's gone to pure black right at that edge. So we've remapped to a new black point. Now similarly with a white point, any pixels at or above the brightness value of 198 will be mapped to pure white. Now let's have a look at the adjusted histogram and image. Now you can see here that now we've got some absolutely pure blacks right over at this side, and we've got some pure whites over this side on the right hand side. Now notice also that in the new gradient, Photoshop, as well as affecting all the pixels below 148 and above 198 in brightness value, it's also redistributed the pixels in between. And this is to keep the transitions between the brightness values as smooth as possible. Now just to show you what's actually happened here, if we revisit levels, so if I click OK now and accept this as an adjustment, and then I'll just go back to image and adjustment and to levels, you'll see now that the histogram is stretched out. It goes right over to complete black, or very nearly complete black, and very nearly complete white over on this side, and it's stretched out what's left in between to fit in between. Now if this was a real image, you'd probably find that it were just a little bit darker or lighter than you would like now after this adjustment. And this is because adjusting the black and white points, it also affects the midtones. Now the number here in the midtone box is 1, which is not the same as the black and the white points. These are brightness values. The value here in this box is an exponential rather than a fixed value. But don't worry, you don't need to know the maths behind it. The simplest way to think of it is at its default setting of 1, we're not making any changes to the midtone brightness. Any value above 1 will increase the brightness of the midtones, and any value lower than 1 will darken the midtones. So moving the midtones has no effect on the black or the white points. So moving the midtone slider to the right, it increases the value, and you'll see that we're actually lightening the midtones. And if we take it to the right, you'll see that we're actually darkening the midtones, because that number's getting smaller. And you can type numbers into that box if you so desire. We'll just reset that back. Okay, now we've looked at the theory with the gradient. Let's try a real world example. Okay, I've got one here which I've got a black and white low contrast image. And this looks a little bit, yeah, there's just something missing, isn't there? Right, so what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to add a levels, but we're going to do it non-destructively this time. So I'm going to add a levels adjustment layer. I'm going to go to the bottom of the layers panel, and I'm going to select levels. And you can see by the histogram that it's got parts of it missing. Here we can see that from probably, I'll tell you what, let's bring that into the middle so you can see it better. So from probably around just after mid-grey, we've got this little teeny tiny line of pixels, but we've got nothing else going right up to the white point. And in the black point, yeah, we have got some pixels. We've got a nice fall off down to this point, but it still could do with a little bit of help. So let's give it a little bit of help. So let's just move that so you can see the image. So what I'm going to do now is grab the white point slider and I'm going to drag it in until I get right up to somewhere like that. And what I'm doing now is saying, right, from any pixels from brightness value like 152 through to 255, make it 256, make them white basically. So it's forcing lighter tones into the image. You can see that's happening. The image is getting lighter. Now on the black point, I'm just going to give that a little bit of a tweak, not too much, just a tiny bit. So now any pixel from 14 down to 0, I'm making 0. So I'm forcing black into the image. And then the midtone slider, I can set it where I like. Do I want it a bit lighter or do I want it a bit darker? I think I'll go for a slightly darker look to it. There we go. So now let's have a look at the adjustment. If I go up to the adjustment layer at the top, I can turn it on and off with a visibility eye. So if I turn that off, so that's before, a bit grey and a bit lackluster. And there we are, we've got something that's got a bit more pop to it. That is something that's more interesting to look at. And that's because we've made it more contrasty. We've increased the blacks and we've increased the whites. And what do you pick that up as? Contrast. Now let's have a look at a colour version of that. So here I've got, it's from a battle reenactment and there's quite a lot of smoke, but it turns out to be quite a lackluster image. So we'll try and see if there's anything we can do to improve this. So again, we'll go and we'll put a levels adjustment layer on. And we can see from the histogram again, we've got virtually nothing on the bright side and we've got even less on the dark side. So let's reset the black and the white points. So I'll grab this white slider and I'll move it in right to the edge of the histogram, somewhere like that. So now from anything from 187 brightness valued right onto the white, they're all forcing now to white, to pure white. And now we'll get the black point, we'll remap that, we'll pull that in just to the edge there. And we can see we've got a little bit of an improvement going on. Let's just click the before and the after, and the before and the after. That's pretty good. And I'll finish off now by changing the midtones. So I can lighten the midtones or I can darken the midtones. I'll darken them just a little bit. So I've still got some smoke, but now if we click the visibility eye of the adjustment layer, we can see that we've gone from before and after, and before and after. So we've certainly increased the contrast and the viewability of that image. Well, that's it for this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment under the video. And if you get a minute, please click that subscribe button and help me to grow my Photoshop learning community. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye for now.